Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start out with a quick poll. How many people here have showroomed? Quite a few. It's a big issue, and if you follow the news, Best Buy last year said that about 40% of its customers are showrooming. It was a huge deal in the holiday season where we saw a lot of retailers come up with various strategies to combat showrooming with varying degrees of success. So I wanted to discuss this with our panel, and in particular, I want to talk about Best Buy because of late there's been a lot of kind of positive news about how Best Buy has really done a good job countering showrooming, and I want to ask, first throw out to you guys, what do you think of Best Buy's strategy, and is this a singular case, or is this something that other retailers can learn from?
I think, if you take price out of the equation, it helps a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably the biggest step that they've made.
And just to back up, this Best Buy's strategy was to match prices.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So they announced we're just going to match prices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to make it. They tested it, I think, last year during holiday, and now they've rolled it out as a across-the-board policy. And as soon as you take that out of the equation, it limits the value of showrooming, right? But I think there's a whole other bunch of components that go into the transaction and the retail experience, and I think bringing price parity is step one. You've also got to make the experience fantastic, right? And I think that they're making strides on that front as well.
Yeah, I think they got hit with a number of factors all at once. They lost their top categories of media, compact discs, and movies at the same time, and suddenly you walk into a Best Buy and that giant center is now empty. Yeah. In addition to the rise of Amazon being able to compete on price, so I think the strategy to match price is what everyone has to do. I think that if you use showrooming as an excuse for why your business is failing, you're not really paying attention to your business, and in the end, you have to provide other reasons for being in the store to make the experience something interesting. And I think that's what they're on their way to doing. And I think, but it's a case study for everybody to be paying attention to.
Now, aside from matching prices, is there anything, we saw, for instance, Target had this program with QR codes where people could, I guess, rather than wait online, they can get the product shipped to them. Is that, did that work? Or?
I think that they're getting some adoption to it. I think that was some of the work you guys have worked on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think they realized that in-store was kind of the best place to seal the deal, like to really complete the sale. So for them, that was one of many different kind of mobile touch points that they created in the store.
What was the thinking? Was it really just, I see this huge line and I don't want to wait, I'd rather just, was that main motivation?
Exactly it. Yeah, so one of the things that we helped them do was identify pain points in the store. So obviously long lines was one of them. Finding products in the store, so product inventory mapped to some sort of navigation plan. And then also stuff like deciding which vitamins to buy, stuff like that. So really identifying through shop-alongs and kind of asking their shoppers lots of questions. What were the moments in the store that we could kind of connect physical and digital and make an impact?
And which categories seem the most kind of susceptible to showrooming? I would imagine, like for supermarkets, it's not as big an issue.
It's going to be.
It's going to be. Why do you say that?
Well, I should say there's been some interesting new things that I've seen that kind of point to a maybe that might become a problem for them. Like I was just reading about an app called Blue Tiger, which basically you put in your grocery list and it uses your location then and tells you which store you should shop at based on the prices.
But you'd have to know exactly what you're going to buy beforehand.
Right.
And be.
So it's a utility, right?
Yeah.
So you put your shopping list, your grocery list into the app, and not only does it help you keep track of all that stuff, but then it'll tell you where to get the best deal at the stores around you. So I think you're right. Generally speaking, low consideration categories like that tend to be less susceptible to it. But who knows? Maybe there's a disruption coming that may change that.
Yeah, I think another way to think about it too is not just the category, but like the type of shopper. So deal hunters and gamers and kind of bargain hunters are the kinds of people that I think are most susceptible to not coming to the store.
Yeah, we were talking about all the different factors that go into what's susceptible to showrooming and not, and certainly, we're in the furniture business. Being able to see and touch things, anything that has that tactile sense is really important thing. And then to how it matches back to like a mobile strategy is making sure that you're supporting that customer experience so that they can, if they want to take a photo of it and a sample of it and carry it along, what's their consideration? What are the things that they need to know about that item? So that you don't leave, even if they leave the store, they don't leave the experience, and they're still considering your products and you're still considering your goods. And I think that's the flip side of the showrooming is think about the power that customer has in their hands and what are all the ways that you can support what they're doing and the questions that they're going to have.
So if I was a retailer and I said, the showrooming, it seems to be a real problem right now, what would you recommend I do aside from matching prices? Or is there anything?
Well, I think pricing is one part of the value equation, but it's not the only one. So you have to go back to what your customer really wants and really understand your customer needs, because it's going to be different for every type of service in the industry. For us, for example, it's making sure that we provide additional layers of customer support and service so they can understand their space. Not all of us are great interior designers, so being able to help that customer understand what an object could look like in their space and help them solve those types of needs are really important. And it's going to be different for everyone, but you can't use the showrooming as an excuse to not finish the experience. And I think everyone's going to have a different answer to that.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think the phone, it's a threat, but it's also this fantastic utility, and it's such a personal and intimate device. And if you can find ways to enhance that shopping experience and make it easy and make it seamless, like some of the things that Target and Best Buy and others have been doing, I think that's a fantastic way to sort of continue to own that customer journey from start to finish. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that mobile has done is it's sort of broken the purchase funnel, right, or the path to purchase, and not just mobile, but digital in general. And mobile has just kind of added fuel to that fire. Somebody said, I think it was somebody from PayPal, I heard at a conference, which I thought was brilliant. It's like the purchase funnel is now the purchase pretzel, right? And I think it's very true, right? And so, exactly to your point, if you can find ways to sort of put the power in the hand, right, and make the shopping experience move seamlessly from even desktop to mobile to the in-store and then back again, right, and just make it easy.
And I would say that's one of the challenges right now in the market is it's very early stages of being able to connect that customer experience across all devices and all experiences. That's certainly one of the biggest investments I think that everyone is undertaking right now. I was talking yesterday, the front-end development that's happening right now to be able to support the experiences is going to be 10 to 20x on the backside to make that experience something that you can map to every customer touch point. And we're just at the very early stages of that, I'd say.
Who's doing a good job? We'd had a preliminary discussion. You mentioned Walgreens. What are they doing?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things that they've done is they first of all they solved a couple of really simple problems like prescription refills, and their head of mobile I was talking to him a couple months ago, and they've been able to track sort of what the daily journey of someone ordering a prescription is. They're going to do it at the desktop during the morning or during the day. I ran out of something. I need to refill my prescription. But in the evening, if they take their last pill, they can scan the bottle and automatically get the prescription refilled. And they see a huge spike in prescription refills between 8 p.m. and midnight, which is something they just did not have and see before. So they're solving problems like that you think about it, you don't want to go back down to the stairs and type in something on your computer. You just can't scan it and solve that problem. But then they've also added some innovations on top of that, being able to take your iPhone photos and print them out at your local Walgreens and things like that I think are helping people understand the brand a little bit differently than just this is where I go to refill a prescription.
Cool. Yeah, and I think retailers that are also thinking outside just the personal device experience, right? Like using iPhones to empower employees to make the customer experience better while they're in the store. I know we work with Lowe's, and they had like the single largest iPhone purchase at once or something like that to kind of distribute to their employees, and we worked on an app that helped them service employees a lot better. So not always thinking about requiring a consumer to pull their phone out and download something and work through it that way, but to have an employee have a device out, kind of installed somewhere.
So the employees are like well informed. They're able to get information
and connected to each other, connected to customers.
And what are the, obviously you've done a lot of research, what are the kind of the main pain points for people who are, or for shoppers, and how can you address that via mobile? You mentioned a couple.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it is the most obvious stuff you could think of. Like we used to look at the kind of the skid marks on the floor in Target and see how densely they were kind of arranged by the product scanners. So stuff like that, you know, product information, product comparison, navigation within the store.
Well, isn't the thinking traditionally has been retail to not provide good navigation, because the more time you're spending in store, you know, being lost, the more likely you are to buy things. And how does that jive with that?
Yeah, I think there are other ways to kind of cross-sell even on the device while you're navigating to what you're looking for. You know, mapping sales to a map.
Well, no, I'm serious. I mean, isn't it doesn't it conflict with the goal of, like, you know, not a stated goal, but one that's kind of obvious, to keep people kind of in the store as long as possible? Providing a good way to navigate the store seems like it might work against them, right?
I think that's actually, I don't think that's a philosophy that Target has. They have kind of a racetrack model where everything, it's actually quite easy to navigate the store. But yeah, that's a really interesting point. I'm not sure how, like an IKEA or somewhere where it's a little bit crazier to get around inside would.
I mean, in the supermarket, they have the fruit on the and the milk over here, so, you know, they want to keep you going to the middle of the store, right?
Yeah, but again, even in the supermarket, you're seeing changes, right? Like Catalina acquired a company called Motive Media that is using mobile to do a lot of that sort of cross-selling. So it's like, when I buy the tortilla chips, it's going to pop up an offer for salsa, right? Or, you know, other things. So it knows what's in my basket, and it's going to make recommendations or suggestions or offers based on that, or on my purchase history, right?
So is it changing the thinking, you know, behind, or retailers saying basically, like, you know, we can't get away with that anymore, that kind of thinking anymore?
Well, yeah, you know, we were talking about this before. I think it's like the reaction from a retailer can either be, I'm going to put my head in the sand and pretend that it's not happening, or I'm going to fight it, or I'm going to embrace it. And I think that, you know, it's an empowered consumer, and trying to fight it is risky business.
It's an empowered consumer who has more access, more options than ever before, but also wants to participate in a way that perhaps they didn't want to participate before. So I think that's where you really understanding your customer, using the grocery store example. You know, why isn't the milk right up front so I can grab it and go? Like, that's a consumer type that they should understand, that they need to value their time as much as anything. We are all pressed for time. We all have access to other things. I do the majority of my shopping on the train, and that's just a convenience for me. So everyone, I think the retailers, the successful retailers, understand that if they are not supporting what their best customers want, that they're not going to succeed. And it doesn't have anything to do with showrooming or mobile or anything else. It's the fact that the consumer has more options than ever before and more power than ever before.
Yeah, speaking of which, I mean, just looking ahead, Google Glass, wearable technology, I would think this would really intensify that phenomenon if you're walking around a store and able to get instant information like that.
We have very tech-forward-thinking customers, and we have yet to see one walk in with a goofy pair of glasses. I'm sure that day is going to happen soon. But, you know, if you think about that, and I'll use our customer as an example, think about, you know, part of our job is to educate people about design, and think about the wealth of knowledge that someone with that information could have. Forget price comparison and all that other stuff. They want to have a great experience. They want to learn. They want to understand. So anything that allows them to do that, whether it's a mobile device, an iPad app, or goofy glasses, we're all for it. I mean, we want them to be as educated as possible. And I think that's the attitude that, again, smart retailers are taking, is how do I create a great experience? How do I treat my customers well and appreciate their time and what the energy that they're going to put into it?
And speaking of you know, retail thinking, the same-store sale is kind of the yardstick in the industry. But we had talked about how I think you thought that was an outmoded measure in the age of mobile.
Yeah, I think so. Human nature dictates that we like goals. We like to have rewards. So I think on a micro level, you'd still need same-store sales and individual sales experience or sales numbers to sort of motivate people and help them get up the next day to do a great job. But I think when you're looking at it strategically at the business, right now we're in the process of revising sort of how we look at a market and understand it more like a CPG model of like how many sales, what's my sales penetration in New York City? Because it's going to happen on the phone, it's going to happen on an iPad, or for us, iPad. It's going to happen on a computer, and it's going to happen in a store. So how do I support that customer experience in that market, and what are all the ways to market to that customer? And what are all the ways to make sure that the customer service experience is consistent across all of those?
So a retailer should think of itself as a brand that goes across multiple platforms.
I think otherwise you're just going to keep confusing yourself and not focus on what the customer really needs.
And is that thinking taking hold, or is it still kind of?
Well, we've been doing, the last 2 years have been a very aggressive investment in our back-end technology, so from everything from our CRM and ERP. So I would say we are close to getting there.
Now, in addition to going shopping and trying to find the best deal, I think isn't there a certain entertainment value to shopping, and how could retailers play that up, and what kind of customers are looking for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's entertainment, and I think it's also just the immediacy of having all the products kind of right in front of you. There's definitely a social element to shopping that gets lost when you're shopping online.
There's a discovery aspect too, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yep. And I think we're also working with Nike, a store they have in Portland, on this concept where you can use this digital screen to design a shoe and actually walk out of the store with the shoe. It's kind of like a physical extension of their ID campaign. And that's become like a really social experience for people in the store. Everyone kind of working on the same thing, and then it gets kind of delivered to you right there. Yeah, I think it's all really good news for consumers. Like, it helps brands focus on what people like about coming into their stores. Target fitting rooms were like a really fun place for women to go try on bathing suits. All those sort of elements get lost when you're shopping online.
Yeah, and
I think, I'm sorry, just to kind of riff on that point, I think what mobile and digital, speaking more broadly, digital has the power to do is to reinvent the shopping experience entirely, right? And obviously that's what we're talking about, but you look at a category like automotive, where it's like people just dread going to the dealer, right? And some of the things, like our folks over in Germany worked with Audi on sort of reinventing the whole dealership experience, and created this installation that launched at the Olympics in London, and it completely changed the dealer shopping experience, driven entirely by big touchscreen, mobile, and other technologies, right? And that, I think, is the real power, right? Like reinventing it, solving the pain points. They were talking about it on the earlier panel, right? Like solve a real problem, and that's the same kind of thing that you guys are doing. Yeah.
Another problem is payments, making the actual physical payment. And it seems like the technology is out there to do mobile payments, but it hasn't really come together for various reasons. Do you expect that to change, and how would that really change the retail experience?
I don't think it's going to change quickly. I think it'll be a while.
Why is that?
Well, I think credit cards work pretty well, right? It's not a huge convenience. There's not a huge consumer value proposition yet. But B, I think there's just so many players who are trying to solve it, and the infrastructure and the ecosystem is so complicated as it is, that I think there's a lot of barriers just in the sort of the back end and the infrastructure.
I think there are some interesting things to be done. I agree. I think the credit card's still pretty easy. The panel that was just speaking knows a heck of a lot more than I do on that topic. But I think there are ways to think about, again, back to the customer experience of what they want to do. We're a high average order size, low volume transaction business. So why do you make the credit card such a focal point? Why not make it more of an experience where you can say, here are all the things we talked about in the store. Here's all the things you like. Here it is on the iPad app. Let me send it to you. At your convenience, you can do it. Or you can sign it right here. Or let's order it right now, and you can send pictures to your spouse. Make that experience a more interesting one. Obviously, that doesn't work in a high transaction volume space, but I think, again, that they have different problems where an app that can go around the checkout line, things like that. So it's, again, making sure that you understand really what your customers are trying to do and create the best experiences possible. And there's a ton of ways to do that right now because we have devices that allow us.
Yeah, I think what's changing the whole checkout process more than anything is just bringing checkout to consumers while they're shopping, right? There was like that stop and shop. You could kind of scan as you buy, scan as you shop, kind of pay as you put stuff into your cart. I don't know if you guys do it. Restoration Hardware does it. They bring, you just check out while you're sitting on the couch looking at furniture.
Yep.
In my mind, that's the most exciting part for the customer.
I think we have a few minutes left. Anyone have any questions for the panel? Sir?
From Dealer App, Angel Cruz, we cater specifically to automotive. So one of the challenges there, which I'm sure you're aware of, is that we can't aid them in the conversion factor or in completing it. What have you guys, if anything, done to somehow bring more attention or a better shopping experience or research experience while they're in that dealer or on that lot?
Yeah, so, I think there's a lot of different things that I've seen. If you look at specifically at the Audi example, that's a combination of, like I said, sort of large format touchscreen, providing the user the ability to configure the car, either on their own or in partnership with a dealer employee, right? Sort of a co-selling type of a scenario. And we're seeing that happen both in those larger formats, but then also just on an iPad, right? Like, I think one of the biggest things that I've seen done in auto dealers is, like, when you sit down even to start negotiating, whether you're negotiating the price or like just trying to figure out, what features you want into the car, you sit down, the salesman sits down across from you with a giant computer monitor in between you, right?
Yep.
And it like completely breaks the personal interaction.
Yep.
And if you just switch that to an iPad, right, like suddenly that big barrier isn't there anymore. You're able to sort of work together and complete the process there. So just
That's
a
a
few
great point.
examples.
Yeah, and plus you feel like you're in 2013,
Right, yeah, exactly.
Any other questions? We have time for one, maybe two more.
I think another part to that, just solving that problem, is people are used to sort of different interfaces for searching and understanding and discovery of products, and technology can enable that. And it's the best way to really find those types of large browsing experiences, and just bringing them to the experience in an automotive setting. I've got to believe is a great way to go. And then there's a whole bunch of other ways to take that to a transaction, I think.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, when we think of mobile, I think of phones and people looking at their phones within retail. But how do tablets fit in? What you mentioned there about, customer service reps using it, it's a great point. But what about on the consumer side? How do tablets fit in?
For the way we're thinking about it, we've rolled out iPads to all of our associates. They love it because it allows them to sort of also break out of the experience. We've got an app, we've got an optimized site, but then they can also look at other people's sites, competitor sites, and other things for ideas and inspiration with the client. But then I think the key part to figure out for the next year is the customers often have those as well. So how do you create that, turn that into a sharing experience so that it leads with the customer, and then they have something to work on back and forth and make it an iterative, collaborative process. And I think that's one of the most interesting things, because people want to do that. Again, it's entertaining and it's interesting. I can do it while I'm watching television, and I can keep that conversation going.
Couch commerce.
Yes, couch commerce.
Yeah, I also wondered, Apple stores are so successful, yet you don't see many other stores where the associates are walking around just doing your transaction right there. Why is that?
I think more are. I mean, I think it's about to happen.
Yeah.
The first issue was cost. Most people have a large investment in their point-of-sale systems, and then making all the systems to be able to talk. But I think it's right around the corner.
Is there anyone out there?
I believe Nordstrom's doing
Nordstrom,
it. Yeah.
Research hardware. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we are out of time, but thanks everyone for coming down this afternoon. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.